Hi, welcome to History 1301, U.S. History up to 1877. My name is Alfonso R. Lopez, and I will be your instructor for this class this semester. Now, what we're going to be doing in this recorded video presentation is to go over the syllabus. Consider this as the first day of class, so to speak. This is where, if you were to be taking a face-to-face class, this is where, when you meet the instructor. And the instructor really goes over the syllabus in order to explain in great depth what the course is going to be about, what are going to be the major requirements in terms of textbooks, for example, assignments, exams, extra credits, and the like, and also how the class is going to be structured and formatted, so you'll have a very good idea what to expect in this class in terms of what is the method of instruction, what is your responsibility on a weekly basis, how you can prepare for the exams, and so on. So this is a very, very important video presentation that I highly recommend that you go over the entire presentation. If possible, take notes and go back to this presentation whenever you have a doubt. Of course, you can always contact me for any questions or comments, regarding the course, and I will respond, of course. Now, the syllabus is already posted on Blackboard. It's been there for about a week or so. And so let's go over to Blackboard, which is going to be our main platform that we're going to be using for this class. And I sent you over the weekend an email announcement indicating that I was about to upload a video presentation titled Class Introduction today, Monday. And it's going to be posted. You can see this menu column right here on the left, on the very top, where it says Class Introduction. This is where you're going to find that this video material, the presentation of the class. So when you open the page of Blackboard, you will see the announcements right away. And I will be posting announcements whenever there's an exam coming up. For example, I will let you know. I will send you the instructions and the like. So every time I post an announcement, I will send you an email automatically. So you'll be receiving through your emails the Blackboard announcements. All right, so let's go over the syllabus. And again, the syllabus is also posted here, as you can see on the second link. Just below Class Introduction, you're going to find the link Syllabus. If you click on it, you'll find the syllabus posted is on a page. It's a syllabus page, so to speak. And we're going to go over that section by section. That way you'll be able to identify the major components and requirements for this course. All right, so let's start from the very top. So again, this is U.S. History 1301. This video presentation is meant to be for students taking 1301 section 172 and also 173. It's the same class, it's just different sections. This is a 12-week course which starts today, Monday, September 18th, and it ends December 10th. My name is Alfonso R. Lopez, and the fastest and easiest way to reach me is via email. I'm checking my email several times a day, so Monday to Friday, you'll be receiving a response within a 24-hour period. It is only during the weekends that I might take 48 hours. So if you send it, let's say, on a Saturday, more than likely I will be responding Monday morning. Okay? So my email is listed there, as you can see. And according to ACC policy, all electronic communication between faculty and students must take place within the ACC official electronic resources, which means that if you're going to send me an email, please use your ACC email account because otherwise, if you're sending it from a private email, I would not respond. So if you want a quick, prompt response from me regarding anything, the lectures, for example, exams, assignments, and the like, clarification, you name it, again, just send that through your ACC email account. And always, please, indicate which class you're taking. For example, you can say, oh, I'm enrolled in History 1301, Section 172 or 173, so that really facilitates, again, the response. All right, so in terms of requirements, in terms of textbooks, there's going to be one textbook required for this course, which is this one right here. It's listed here in the syllabus. It's called Reading American Horizons, Primary Sources for U.S. History in a Global Context, Volume 1. So make sure you're getting Volume 1. And you're also getting the 4th edition, the 4th. Because this book is going to be required for completing the course assignment that is due at the end of the semester. Okay, so why do you need this textbook? Okay, so this textbook is not a standard conventional textbook that is commonly assigned in history courses where you read a narrative of historical events about U.S. history, but rather this is a collection of documents that were produced, written, generated by very important historical actors in U.S. history. And I've selected 10 documents out of this book for you to read and answer some questions, and altogether constitute the major assignment that is due early December. I'll talk more about the assignment when we get there, but this is the reason why you're going to need this textbook. Once again, it's the 4th edition. If you're getting any other edition, it's not going to work out, due to the fact that every edition presents different documents. Where it's available, as far as I know, the ACC Highland Campus bookstore is the one that actually sells this book. I believe it's $20. It might have gotten up for $25 or $26. But that's the only financial investment you're going to be making in this course in terms of textbooks. If you wait long enough, you might not buy it from that bookstore, because what usually happens is that the ACC bookstores, at some point, they send back to the vendors all the books that they did not sell in the semester, and this is not happening at the end of the semester. It's somewhere at the very middle again of the semester. So if I were you, I would just try buying it within the next couple of weeks or so. I mean, that's my recommendation. Otherwise, you'll be required to buy it on an online bookstore like Barnes & Noble or Amazon, for example. You can buy it from any other vendor as well, of course. You can actually buy it used as well for much less than that listed price. All right, so let's move on here. This is an online asynchronous course, which means is going to be a class delivered fully online without any designated class meetings for real-time instruction. This is a class that is very, very flexible, in which the materials are given to you on Blackboard, and you can review those materials in your own schedule. So it's very, very flexible in that regard. So that is the format. Once again, there's no meetings. We're not going to meet online, etc. This is all, again, a very flexible schedule. You can tailor your own schedule when you're going to review those materials. And of course, you have to keep a certain rhythm, a certain pace, week by week, trying to review the material, because otherwise you'll be accumulating a lot of material if you just procrastinate or you leave those video lectures. Again, we'll talk about the video lectures, how this class is going to be taught. If you leave those video lectures towards the end, again, it will be just so much to watch that is going to be an impossible task to catch up with so much material. All right, so the course description, what the course is going to be about. So this is U.S. History 1301. So this is the first half of U.S. history that ventures from the very early origins of the United States, going back to the Native Americans and the Europeans, also against European civilization. So our course is going to start there, looking at the Native American societies that inhabited the continent of America, looking at the major developments, cultures, religions, and the major civilizations that flourish here. And then we look at Europe as well, and we're going to also look at the European background of the United States. And as a survey, of course, we're not going to provide an exhaustive analysis and presentation of European history, but it's important to know the European cultural background of the United States. So we look very briefly at the ancient Greeks, Romans, then the Middle Ages, and then the age of discovery that led to, of course, Columbus's voyage in 1492. And then we assess, of course, the meeting of the two cultures, the Native American world and the European world. We assess the encounters, if you will, of those different worlds. And then we looked at early colonization as well. Initially, we looked at what really pushed Europeans out of Europe to come to America, to start building a series of settlements and trading outposts, eventually colonies again. So we examine economic factors in this regard, the need for trade. We're going to look at the rise of international trade as a factor that led to the discovery of America, but also to the colonization of America. And also we looked at religious factors as well. There were religious conflicts in Europe that began in the 1500s and intensified in the 16 and 1700s, when Europe became divided between Catholics and Protestants, and because there was a climate of persecution, we're going to see, of course, a great number of Europeans trying to escape that climate of persecution, come to America and create their own religious communities. Eventually, they create a series of religious colonies on behalf of England. We're going to see that very closely. About 5 or 6 colonies that were created out of the original 13 British colonies of North America. There were about 5 or 6 that were created by religious exiles. We're going to look at that. Then our story moves into the colonial period, and we're going to examine U.S. history from 1640 all the way to the end of the French and Indian War in 1763, the entire colonial period. And we're going to examine colonial society, how colonial society was formed during those years. And so we're going to get to see different groups of, or historical actors, if you will, that are going to come together to start forming and shaping colonial society. One of them is going to be the African slave. So there will be an entire topic devoted to African slavery and the slave trade. Analyzing the rise of the international slave trade, that took place very early on in African history. Africa began to export massive quantities of slaves to the Middle East in the 10th, 11th century AD. And then from the 15th century onwards, the Portuguese, the Spaniards, the French, and the British began to also export slaves out of Africa and import them into their own colonies in the New World, in the American continent. So we're going to be paying attention to that, and eventually we're going to get to see the reasons why British planters in the southern colonies, like Virginia, for example, decided to implement this labor system, otherwise known as slavery, African slavery. We're going to get to see that initially they experimented with indenture servitude, bringing British servants to work on plantations, tobacco plantations, and eventually there's going to be a transition from indenture servitude to African slavery. We're going to see that also very closely. We're also going to see other groups, of course. Native Americans will also be looked and examined in terms of their interactions, their relationships with the settlers, what kind of relationships were built during the colonial period. And we're going to see, of course, not only trading relationships, but also religious relationships in which the settlers were attempting to convert the Native American population. So remember, religion was a very important force in the founding of the United States, as I just explained a moment ago. And so many of the religious communities that were established in the 13 colonies saw that it was their mission to spread Christianity far and wide across the continent. So they engaged in this missionary work and activities, trying to convert the Native Americans, but also convert the African slaves as well. So again, this is going to be a very important theme as we explore the colonial period, the theme of religion in this case. And of course, within those communities, those religious communities, there was, of course, also internal conflicts amongst themselves, dealing with religion itself, in that as the colonies grew and expanded and became more prosperous, many of the colonies began to abandon religion altogether at some point. We see the rise of materialistic values, for example. People began to be more concerned with the here and the now, the material needs, the material desires of this world. And religion became a kind of like a secondary factor, of course, for the colonies. And of course, there were reactions to that we're going to be exploring in this class, and the reactions were, of course, sometimes violent, like the Salem witch trials we're going to look at in Salem, Massachusetts. There was an attempt to persecute people that were not conforming to the religious norms, that were becoming too liberal, too modern, for example. But on the other hand, there were other kinds of responses, and those responses involved, for example, a religious revival. The First Great Awakening, again, it was an attempt to bring back religion to the center of people's lives, in the 1730s and 40s. We're going to see that also in great depth. Now, our story in the colonial period culminates with the independence movement. At the end of the French and Indian War, something we're going to get to analyze as well very closely, it was really, again, a conflict, not necessarily a conflict between the settlers and the natives necessarily, but it was a conflict between the English settlers against the French Empire and their Indian allies over territories, over trade. We're going to get to see and explore and analyze all of those relationships, of course, very closely. But at the end of the French and Indian War, the colonies are rapidly now moving towards independence due to the fact that Britain is now enacting new laws to extract revenues from the colonies, due to the fact that Great Britain fought the French and the Indians to protect the colonies, and now Great Britain was in debt, and as they're trying to recover some of those investments from those 7 years again that they fought the French and the Indians by extracting taxes and revenues from the colonies, we're going to see again, the colonial leaders, merchants, planters, lawyers coming together and deciding to declare independence from Great Britain. We're going to get to examine very, very closely the American Revolution at the end of the colonial period. Then our story moves into the national period, the formation of the United States as an independent nation, as a republic. We're going to get to see the founding, the formation of the American Republic, all the events that led to the founding of the Republic in 1877, the philosophical ideas that the framers of the Constitution used to create the country, what was the structure of the government. We're going to get to see, again, very closely all of those issues. And we'll see also some of the challenges that the Republic faced very initially to remain independent and to expand their economic trading activities, and also Americans' desire to expand westward. There was a desire for Americans to move westward. We're going to get to see all of the challenges that affected the country as the country was trying to create an economy based on trade and expand westward. We're going to look at that very thoroughly as well. Then we're going to see also one of the most dramatic transformations that the United States experienced very early on in the early 19th century, and that is the Industrial Revolution. We're going to get to see the Industrial Revolution, the beginning of industries, factories, railroads, industrial cities, for example, the rise of wage labor, the rise of the very first middle class in the United States. We're going to get to see that very, very thoroughly, a phenomenon that occurred, of course, in the northern part of the country, the northern states, and how the Industrial Revolution is going to divide the country into two sections. The industrialized north and, of course, the south remained pretty much tied to agriculture, the plantation system, and growing cotton that was needed for the industries, by the way, of the north. And in doing so, they expanded the system of slave labor. African slavery was expanded significantly, and the country became divided in that way: an industrialized north based on wage labor and an agricultural south based on slave labor. And eventually, by 1860, out of those divisions, the country became so polarized that we see a fracture. Of course, in 1860, the South decided to leave the Union, and that precipitated, of course, the Civil War. We're going to get to see at the very end of the class, the Civil War, the war between the North and the South, how ultimately the South was defeated, and the attempts to rebuild the country in a new way, the process of reconstruction. We're going to get to also explore that very thoroughly. All right, so that is what we're going to be covering across the semester. That's the course description. Now, in terms of my approach, what style or method I used in order to teach this material is that I teach history, whichever course I teach, by the way. Doesn't matter the course that I teach. I always endeavor to teach history from a global perspective. Okay? From a global perspective. What that means is that although we're going to be looking very closely at events taking place here in North America, the development of the United States and such, we're also going to be paying attention to the outside, how the United States was fitting in with the rest of the world, what influences from the outside were coming together to impact or shape the course of American history. So, this means that no country, really, no culture, no region develops in perfect isolation from the rest of the world. There's really constant influence coming from the outside, that is to say. I just talked, for example, about immigration. How the Europeans are moving into the American continent and settling in order to create trading outposts and colonies for trade, for example. So again, the Europeans are bringing with them their own cultures, their own languages, their own traditions. And of course, the Native Americans had their own traditions as well that are going to be blended somewhat with the European cultural heritage as well. We mentioned, for example, the African slaves. Okay, so there were a great numbers of African slaves that were brought to the Americas through the slave trade, and also the African slaves were bringing along with them their own cultures as well from Africa. So that's just one example that the United States was being formed by different cultures and civilizations, many of which were coming from the outside. And so we have to look at the background of those cultures. Again, that's the global perspective. What is the African background? What were, for example, the African social systems, political systems? How was African religion like, for example? So we can understand the backdrop, if you will, of the African cultural heritage from which the slaves were coming from, and understand how many of those ideas were integrated into the United States. Again, that's just one of the examples. Later on, of course, as we look at the scientific revolution or the industrial revolution, we're also going to look at European ideas. The industrial revolution started in England, and we're going to look at that as well very closely. How many of those ideas that flourished first in England, giving rise to railroads and factories and wage labor and capitalism, were imported into the United States. So that's the global perspective. That's what I mean about that. Also, in my style or method of teaching, I try to also get at the inside perspective of people. That is to say, I try to understand people from within. In other words, trying to get into people's mindset as much as I can, whether you want to call it psychoanalyzing or just, tapping into their psyche, trying to see the world through their eyes. This is very important for me. History for me is not just looking at the past and, understanding just generally the economics or political factors that were shaping history and trying to just, memorize dates and names. That's not enough, because ultimately history is the study of human beings. We're studying human beings, and in order to understand human beings, we need to get into their mindset as much as possible. So I use, in my lectures, a lot of psychological methods. I use psychoanalysis. I try to understand where people were coming from, how people were raised, what kind of ideas, beliefs that were instilled in their minds, so I can actually see the world through their own lens. I also use sociology for the same reason. I use anthropology. I use political science. I use religious studies, cultural studies to get into, again, the inside perspective. Okay, so you'll notice right away that, as you start watching the lectures, that there's going to be a lot of analytical, again, history. All right, so the mode of learning. How are you going to learn this material? As I explained, this material is going to be presented in a series of recorded video lectures. Just like this presentation, again, is recorded and posted on Blackboard. Likewise, all my lectures are already available on Blackboard. If I can show you right away, you see here course content, and then there's a link called instructional materials. You click on there, and there's two folders. One contains the actual video lectures. You click on it, and you'll see 9 folders, because there's 9 themes or topics. That means that all my lectures are organized thematically. There are 9 themes. And each folder, each theme, for example, we start with Native American history, right? So you click on that, and then you'll see 3 recordings, 3 video sessions, that is to say, 3 recordings. And they have to be watched in that sequence. You watch session 1, session 2, session 3. Every single folder or every single theme has 3 video recordings. Once you're through with that, then you proceed with the second topic, which is the European discovery, conquest, and colonization of America, the European background. And that also has 3 sessions. And they span for about an hour and 20 minutes. That's really the closest of what a face-to-face class is. So my intention here is to give students a virtual experience of a face-to-face class. You know, the videos are presenting lectures that are similar, if not identical, to the lectures I present in class. You're able to watch the instructor, you're listening to me, and then of course I have the PowerPoint presentation. It's really an outline that I use, bullet points and maps and photographs and the like, for you to pay attention to the key concepts, the key idea that I'm actually elaborating, and so on. So it's really similar to the way I teach in class, in person. So the only difference, again, that it's been recorded, and this is something that you can actually watch in your own time. Now, the other folder, lecture outlines and questions, present all the outlines that I'm going to be using in those video recordings. Okay, so the same outlines that you're watching on the screen that I'm actually presenting, elaborating, etc., that have bullet points and the like, they're there for you. They're Word docs. And at the end of each outline, you'll be able to see the exact questions that will appear on the exam. So again, there will be no mystery as to what will be asked in the exam. Again, it's just right there. You can just, at the very end, when you scroll all the way down to the very last page of the outlines, there will be a series of questions for you to study. Those are the questions that will appear on the exam again. So again, everything is for your benefit here, to prepare better, to know what to study or what to pay attention to, and so on. Okay, so let us go back to the syllabus. And as I mentioned, the instruction will be all based on lectures. There will be no outside readings, again, on a weekly basis. There will be no quizzes or anything like that. Your responsibility is to watch those video presentations and take notes and use that material to answer the questions on the exam. So you don't need to, once again, be following up on any other readings or research or anything like that, just the lectures. And the lectures, this is very important. I've constructed those lectures from a wide array of different materials, readings, and articles that I've read over the years, ever since I started really my academic studies. So there will be no book that it will give you all of that material, because once again, my lectures are not based in just one textbook. Okay, I don't just read one textbook and then I come here and recite what the textbook says. Again, it's redundant, right? That's why there's no actual textbook in this course, because all the material that you're supposed to be learning comes from the lecture. And like I said, there will be 9, as I showed you, there will be 9 folders, 9 themes, and that's exactly, again, the organization of the lectures. The lectures are not organized randomly or chronologically. They're organized around themes. There are 9 themes. Themes that correspond to major historical eras or periods in U.S. history, as you can see here in this table of contents, so to speak. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, there are different eras or historical periods, and there are 3 topics or themes that are explored in each one of those eras, and your responsibility is to be watching them again on a timely fashion. Once again we cover 3 topics, then we have the first exam, and the exam will be based on those 3 topics. I'll explain how this is going to work out again once we move in just a few seconds again on the section on the exams. We cover topics 4, 5, and 6, and then we have the second exam over those topics, and then we cover 7, 8, and 9, and then we have the final exam all over those topics. So the final exam is not going to be comprehensive. It's just going to deal with the last 3 topics that we cover. Now, as I said, the exams, there will be 3 exams for this course. Each is worth 25% of the final grade. Now, let me talk about the format of the exams. The exams, they all share the same format, okay? They don't vary, it's the same format. And the format is that you're supposed to be answering questions on one topic and then answering key terms from another topic. So there's part 1 and there's part 2. Okay, part 1, let me just give you an example here. Part 1, for example, will ask you, look, choose between topic number 1 and topic number 2. Just choose one. Okay, choose one topic 1 or 2, and answer all the questions on that topic. So, once again, you're only choosing one topic from a set of 2. It's either the Native American history or the European background. Okay? You choose. And you answer the questions on that topic very thoroughly for 70 points. Each question there's 4 questions actually, presented per topic. So you only choose one topic and you answer the 4 questions on that topic very, very thoroughly. Let me just give you, for example, the visual here of the first exam, which is already posted on Blackboard, by the way. Okay, so it gives, again, it's all the instructions are posted here. And the first part, the topic section says choose one topic and answer all the questions fully. So you can choose the history and culture of Native American civilizations, for example, the first topic. And I've posted 4 major questions, and those questions derive from the lectures exclusively. So you don't need really to be searching any outside source or anything like that. You want to ace this class, all you need to do is watch the videos, take notes, and use that material to answer the questions. Okay? And that's it. Alright, so the questions must be answered very thoroughly, one by one, in a question and answer format. So it's not an essay. It's not like in English where you have to have this, composition with this grand statement or topic paragraph and then a series of arguments and conclusion. It's nothing like that, but rather just write the question and then answer it as fully as you can, then move to the second question and then answer it as fully as you can, and so on. That's for 70 points. And then part 2 is the key term section. And the key term section deals with the third topic on religion. So everybody has to do the topic on religion in this case. Everybody. Because it is part of the exam and this is no option. Again, in order to actually earn those 30 points, to really get a good grade in the exam, because let's just say that you answer all the questions fully on part 1, you earn 70 points, let us just say that. But then you move into part 2 and you really either did not address the key terms, you left them blank, or you just wrote a small paragraph on each term. It's not going to work out. It's telling you choose 3 key terms from a set of 6. So there are 6 key terms, but you only choose 3, whichever you want, and you have to answer and explain very, very thoroughly. Again, this is not just an identification exercise, but it's really an exercise in which, for example, you are the instructor, you are the teacher, and you're trying to explain to the audience what the term is and why it's important and why it's significant. So if somebody has no clue who John Calvin or Martin Luther is, or Roger Williams, and if you just answer, a few sentences, they're not going to know, again, who that person is. So you have to be very thorough. If you want to really earn all the points from part 2, you have to really provide a very, very expanded answer. Okay? All right. So now, let me warn you. One of the common problems I faced in the past, is that students either do not watch the lectures, and instead they go to any other kind of outside source, whether it's online or otherwise, and they try to answer the questions using outside sources. The instructions clearly indicate here that the entire work must contain only lecture material. No internet, online encyclopedia material, or articles or books will be allowed. So if I start reading something I did not lecture, your work will be disqualified. Okay, so try to avoid that, because it's like working double. You work the first time and you use outside sources, you spend time doing that. You're still going to spend time, you're going to spend effort and energy trying to submit a work that is not satisfactory. So that's a waste of time, because if you are disqualified for doing that, then you'll be required to do it again, and that takes another effort. Again, it's like working twice as much, for doing something that you should have just done it once. Again, so you're not really saving time. You're not going to save any time or energy avoiding watching the lectures and just submitting any kind of work. Okay. So that's one of the most common problems. Again, is that students just decide not to use the lecture material. The other problem is that students do not really elaborate or explain. They do watch the material, but whenever they're writing, they're assuming that I know what they're talking about. They don't explain. They just mention the names of a religion. Well, the Native Americans believed in spirits and they worship animals, and they move on. Like, wait. I gave a lot of examples about what kind of spirits they worship, what kind of spirits they believed in, what kind of rituals and ceremonies they conducted to the animals. I gave a lot of explanation on that. So you have to provide details. Okay, so details are also important. Those are the 2 common problems. Again, outside sources or not providing enough description and details, again, of the material. All right, so this is more like a writing exercise. It's not timed. The exam is not going to be timed. This is not going to take place on a specific day. You have all this time to start working on this. There's a due date. The first exam, of course, is due October 13th. That is the due date. But I mean, this is more like a take-home writing assignment that you're doing in your own time, little by little, as you're watching the lectures and so on again. So it has to be ready by October 13th. Okay, so let's go back to the syllabus. All right, so the 3 exams are going to be like that. Exactly. There's no modification. They're all going to be exactly the same. Now, there will be extra credit assignments. Okay, so your grades are not set in stone. There is the possibility of adding points to each exam. The extra credit assignments are already available on Blackboard under course assignments. If you can go back here. Again, under course content, you click on course content, course assignments, that link, course assignments, and all the major assignments are posted here. The ones that are required is the first exam, second exam, final exam, and the report. Those are required for everybody. The extra credit assignments, they're optional. They're not mandatory. That's only if you want to add points to each exam. So you click here, you're going to see 3 folders, and each folder has the instruction and the reading that you have to do to earn 10 points. Each exam, again, each extra credit assignment adds up to 10 points to each exam. Now, in terms of, this is a technical, of course, piece of information. If for some reason you cannot continue with this course due to personal matters, work related, changes and schedules, etc., you have until November 16th to drop, of course, this course. But if you're just struggling, or you feel that you're not going to pass this course, or you're falling behind, before you withdraw, contact me and explain your situation. And there's also the possibility of working something out, of course, maybe an extension and so on. Again, if you have, of course, an emergency taking place and so on. Before you decide to withdraw, please send me an email, explain, and maybe, again, there's a possibility of creating an alternative, of course, path for you to continue with this course and actually, pass it. So that's my only recommendation. Of course, it's something that is completely out of your reach, of course. That's totally understandable, of course. Now, as I explained, there will be one major course assignment. This is due at the end of the semester. This is due December 1st. That involves this textbook. It's a very small, thin booklet, actually, as a matter of fact. Okay, remember getting the volume 1, 4th edition, very important. And what I've done is that I've selected 10 documents for you to watch, and you read. They're very short read, by the way. Each document sometimes is a page, sometimes it's 3 pages long. That's the longest. Again, those are just excerpts, if you will, of the actual document. You read it, and then you answer some questions related to that document. All the guidelines are posted here on Blackboard, and the syllabus, and also under course assignments as well. It tells you the chapter number, the page number, the title, and the specific questions that must be answered. The answers per document must be a page long, double space. So when you're answering, for example, these 2 questions, 2 or 3 questions that I posted here for the first document, the answers for those 3 questions for the first document must be a page long, double space. Then you move into the second document, and also the answers to those questions must be a page long. Now, in terms of the format, please follow a question and answer format. On the top of the page, write the title of the document, and then write the question and then the answer. Question and answer. You move to the second document, write the title of the document, and then write the question and answer. Because if you're just writing the answers and you don't indicate which document you're working on, it's going to be very confusing. Again, so it's not going to help, really me understanding, what you're actually addressing. So if, for clarity purposes, please indicate which document you're working on and then what question you're answering as well, one by one. That's the format. It's all double spaced. And at the end, you must end up with a 10-page report. A 10-page report, again, double space. You save it on a single file, Word or PDF, and then upload it on Blackboard, again, by the due date, December 1st. Again, this is the only major assignment that is required for this course, and you are required to use this book. Again. So, in the end, this is how this looks like, the grading, again. First, second, final exam, 25% each. The study questions report is also 25% each. Now, if you factor in also the extra credit points you can earn as well, that's a whole letter grade you can add to each exam. You can turn a 75 to an 85. You can turn an 85 to a 95. You can turn a 90 to 100. It doesn't matter. So it's a wonderful opportunity to earn more points. And also, I want to express here that when I'm calculating grades at the end of the semester, I also factor in effort and progress. So if I see that a student has progressed across the semester, the exams have moved from the 75 to 84, then to 92, and the final, you submitted one extra credit assignment or two, but then you ended up with an 88.75. 88.75. Well, that's a lot of progress. I mean, that means that you were progressing, you were improving, you were, striving to earn a better grade, submitting extra credit assignments. I can give you the final push. I can give you the A because you have demonstrated, again, commitment and effort to improve in the course, of course. So that will be rewarded. So keep that in mind. Again, your grades are not set in stone. I also take into account other factors as well. The last page of the syllabus deals with important calendar dates, when the last date to drop a class will be November 16th, Thanksgiving holiday, that week of November 23rd as well, final exams and the like. And also, it tells you week by week what we're covering. In other words, this is supposed to be like a guideline for you. Okay, so what I should be watching on week 1 and week 2 and so on. Again, the topics that you're supposed to be covering, in other words, one by one. And then when the first exam is going to be due, October 13. Likewise, in the second part of the course, the topics that we cover week by week, and then the second exam is November 10th. And likewise, the last portion, it also gives you a breakdown week by week, and then the study questions report due December 1st, and the final exam December 8th. Okay. This is all I have for you. I hope you have, of course, understood the requirements, the organization, the format, the method of instruction, the format of the exams, what is your responsibility in this case for preparing for this course and passing and excelling in this course as well. I hope it was very useful. Please let me know if you have any questions. Send me an email and I will be responding Monday to Friday within a 24-hour period. The weekends, 48 hours. Okay. So this is all I have for you, and I'll see you in the next announcement. Thank you.